I'm from Scott, Louisiana. I got involved with the local Smile Community Action Agency through the Advisory Council. The Advisory Council is a source for the people in the community to come in and find out, what's going on within the community so that way they can become involved. Correct.
Okay. So that's how you got involved in Smile. How long were you on the board?
Well, I was on the Advisory Council for 3 years.
Okay.
I was elected and appointed onto the board in September of 2016.
And boy, that year has been a wild and crazy year. According to the article by Claire Taylor in the Daily Advertiser, it has been a year of turmoil.
It has, and it's so sad because the people in the community needs the service. Smile provides a wide range of services that assist the low income.
Right.
Yes,
right.
And I want to just tell you a little bit about Smile.
Okay.
Smile Community Action, it serves as a local primary provider for local social services in tri-parish regions, which include St. Martin, Lafayette, and Iberia Parish. The name Smile is derived by the first initials of each parish with the adding of the letter E of the acronym. And most people think community action is just local, but it's actually all over the U.S. President Lyndon Johnson initiated community action with the help of Sergeant Shrivers around 1964. The federal fundings that is received from the agency is by the federal government. It is not designed for federal handouts.
Right. It's just to go to these agencies to provide the services.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So the board itself, how large is that board?
The agency is governed by 18 members called the Board of Directors, representing the public, private, and low-income sectors of all three parishes. Board members provide an insight to make important decisions.
Okay, and they come from all three parishes?
Correct.
The board members?
Yes, it's evenly divided.
6 from each parish?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the trouble started quite a while ago, it looks like, because they had been, before you even got on the board, it looks like they had been going back and forth, fighting back and forth in 2016 about who was the president, and they had problems with the CEO.
Right.
An interim CEO was appointed, and they fired him within a matter of months.
Yes, and he was on a corrective action plan, and they fired him within that course.
Why was it on a corrective action? What was to correct?
I'm not sure exactly what occurred because I wasn't on the board at the time.
Oh, okay.
However, they fired him.
Okay, so they had something like 3 presidents within the space of a year, or less than a year?
I believe so.
Okay.
But like I have stated, this is public information.
Right.
Anybody can submit
get this.
Public records request.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And they have to produce it.
Okay. There was a resignation letter from Lafayette attorney. He was a board member, and he resigned, and in it he wrote, "It perplexes me how governing members of an organization that is rooted in doing something good cannot and will not put their personal issues behind them for the benefit." So he resigned, and the interim CEO Royal Hill Jr., was working under the 90-day correction action, and the board fired him. So he filed a lawsuit. And then in April, John Biot, who was appointed by Mayor Robideau, right?
Correct.
He filed 2 lawsuits over Smile issues, one against Hill, who had been himself fired, and another against Kendall Wiltz, one of your fellow board members. And he was named to the board by former City Parish President Joey Durrell. So this goes on and on. Biot sued the board for violating Louisiana public records law, and he sued Mr. Wiltz, and he won those suits.
Right. And Mr. Kendall Wiltz did remain on the board. He was appointed under Representative Vincent Pierre.
And he said there was no vote that was taken to remove him, so his contention was he was still legally on the board.
Yes, we both are legally supposed to be still seated
on the board. Right,
yes.
Okay. Now, it says here that when he attempted to speak during a January board meeting, then President Richard Poche, there's another president.
Yes, so he's the former president.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But within that period, within that 1 year period, now that's number 4. I didn't know about him. And he threatened to have Wiltz removed. So you can see, I mean, the chaos just goes on and on and on. And then fast forward, here you are in September What happened to you?
Okay. I needed, through the advisory council, they always tell us you have to go through the advisory council to be on the board. Well, they asked me, Africa, we believe you would be a good candidate. Go ahead and get a letter of representation, in which I did. I got a recommendation letter from NAACP President Marja Broussard. Okay. She wrote this letter back in July, and I was appointed onto the board in September of 2016. There was an illegal hiring of Dr. Williams.
Yes. And you and Mr. Wiltz voted against that hiring.
Correct, along with other board members.
Yes, it was a 7-6 vote until who was it? Was it Mr. Bryant who voted? Who made it a tie?
Correct. Attorney Marcus Bryant voted over the phone, which
over the phone.
Correct. Which is improper.
This just gets better and better.
Yes.
All right. He voted over and they let him do that.
They allowed it.
And a 7-7 tie vote under Robert's Rules of Order, under which you function on the Smile Board, it's a no vote.
Correct.
It should have been nullified.
Yes, we also follow bylaws. It states in place under Article 6, Section 3, the Executive Committee shall not have the non-emergency authority to remove an officer or member of the Board of Directors. Also, they do not have the authority to elect officers of the Board of Directors.
All right, now.
Including the CEO.
Right. And what's really tragic about this, Africa, from what I've been reading, one of the people who submitted an application, and I'm going to read Janice Mercier-Wade,
Yes.
She applied for the top job. She was never even interviewed. She is a New Iberia native. She has a doctorate. She worked for 24 years at an agency that once was a part of the Akron, Ohio Summit Community Action Agency. She told Claire Taylor of the Daily Advertiser that she had sent her resume, a cover letter, and a letter of reference to Smile. She sent it by FedEx. She has a signed receipt showing the agency received her packet before the September 15th deadline. She says, quote, I waited, and I didn't hear a response. Finally, she was told that Smile didn't receive her packet. Then she heard it was misplaced. Then she heard she wasn't qualified. Later, she heard Smile executive board members wouldn't consider anyone from outside Louisiana, which was not a prerequisite for the job in the job advertisement. She said several search committee members told her that her resume wasn't even submitted to them.
Yes, that is correct. And she reached out to me along with other board members by email. I'm not sure how she got the email, but I'm so glad that she contacted us prior to the vote.
Why? Because otherwise you wouldn't have even known.
No, we would not have known, because the former president, Richard Portier, he created an ad hoc committee, which was called the Search Committee. Right. Originally, the Human Resource Committee was gathering the information for the applicants to allow them
Which is the logical way to go.
Yes.
Not this ad hoc, which makes you think that they were trying to control the outcome from the very beginning.
Correct. And the agency should avoid the look of impropriety at all costs.
Yeah. It's so sad because, with her qualifications, 24 years of experience, a native Louisianan, where does that come in that she didn't live in Louisiana, but she's a native of Louisiana, New Iberia native?
And that
I don't even know how they could do that with a It should not be a prerequisite.
Right.
Should not at all.
Right.
So they selected somebody by the name of Manuel Duque.
Yes.
For the CEO?
Correct. He along with Dr. Williams were the alleged last two. Okay. We had a vote. The vote was to elect Duque. Mm-hmm. However, he declined the position. And when he declined the position...
And that was an $80,000 a year job, correct? And
yes.
He declined an $80,000 a year job. So you got to scratch your head and wonder why.
Well, I guess it was because the agency is questionable when you're dealing, with all that is going on.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So he had problems too, from what I'm reading.
Right.
He was with the former executive director of the Bossier Office of Community Services when he was charged in 2006 with 4 counts of malfeasance in office. This just gets better and better. The Second Circuit Court of Appeal ruled that the Bossier Office of Community Services is a private, not-profit corporation, not a public agency, so he would not be charged with malfeasance. And so when he declined Dr. Williams,
Well, Richard Porche, along with the executive committee, allowed him to take that position. The board, several members of the board, was not happy with that decision because it should have gone to us first to make a decision.
Right.
7 voted to start the hiring process over again, and then the 6 voted to keep.
So
Dr.
this is
Williams
an
there.
18-member board.
Correct.
And the tie was 7-7. What happened to the other 4 members?
Well, I believe at the time we had maybe 2 that resigned from there.
Okay, because they were probably had enough of the turmoil.
They did.
Okay. Now, Mr. Wiltz, he was removed from the board in January, correct?
Yes, he was. He received a letter from Representative Vincent Pierre that he was no longer needed, and he had selected Mr. Smith. I don't recall his first name. I believe it's Willie Smith.
Okay. Well, we have to take a break, but I want to come back and get a little more in detail about then what happened after all of this and what you are going to do. What's your path of action from here up? We're speaking with Ms. Africa Arceneaux, who is technically still a board member of the St. Martin Iberia Lafayette Community Action Agency. We're so thankful that she came in, that she had the courage to come in and talk to us about this, because we've been reading about this agency, and I've known about it for years, and known that it has had problems over the years. But it seems like it all came to a head in 2016, and now it's continuing into 2017. So we want to get to the bottom of this, and so we'll be right back on the Ross Report. Stay with us. We always have a line for you, 232-1542. Right, we're back. Welcome back to the Ross Report, my friends. We are talking to Ms. Africa Arceneaux, trying to get to the bottom of this situation over at Smile. We've given a little background on what has gone on. The year of turmoil, as Claire Taylor very clearly laid out in her articles in the Daily Advertiser, what has gone back and forth, and 4 CEOs within a period of months, and 2 board members apparently resigned, but 2 have been they've tried to remove them, but there's been no vote of the board, so they're not legally removed from the board. One of them is Ms. Arceneaux with Ms. Africa. So, Africa, where do you go? How do you fight this? Because you were appointed by the NAACP, correct?
Yes. Well, Marja Broussard, I requested that she write a letter. She can only recommend me to the board under the private sector. She does not control the seat, which she thinks she controls the seat.
Okay, so she withdrew support from you, thinking that once she withdrew support that you'd have to get off the board, but that's not the case.
Well, what happened was on December 15th at the meeting in which they illegally put Dr. Williams into his seat, she sent a text to my phone stating, Africa, I need to know who you voted for and what was the outcome of it. And I told her my vote was to start the hiring process over again, and my vote will always be in the best interest of the community and the agency. And she was very upset by that. And she then, the very next day, went to the agency requesting and demanding Africa Arceneaux be removed from her position, her appointment.
But that was not her right to do.
No, it was not.
Okay, but she did they appointed somebody else in your place, but you're not legally removed.
Correct. The board has to make that decision on whether I'm removed, and you have to be removed for cause.
How do you get redress from a board when they illegally put in the CEO?
Well, I requested that they put my appointment on the agenda, which they have not. President Marcus Bryant has refused. You can go back and look at the video on the Advertiser, and you can clearly see that he will not place my appointment on the agenda. I had to file a lawsuit in 15 JDC. Just awaiting.
Judicial District Court. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. So you filed the lawsuit. When did you file that?
I filed it last Friday.
Okay. So early in the process as far as that goes.
Correct.
All right. Now, but in the meantime, have you not written letters to various state entities, state and district entities?
Yes, different agencies. Right now I have.
It seems like a case that the legislative auditor would want to get in there and look at those books.
Oh, definitely. I've already contacted District Attorney Keith Stutes, along with Daryl Prepera, the Louisiana State Auditor, because they need to come in and see what's going on with this agency before we lose the funding. The people in the community needs these resources. We have the LAHI program in which it helps community people with their light bills for approximately 3 months. And the largest program that we have is the Head Start program. These families need the support and the resources to make sure they can go to work. The Head Start program is very resourceful for families. And not to mention employees. Employees are worried right now that they're going to lose their job.
So you get the Head Start, the agency gets state and federal money, correct?
Mostly federal.
Mostly
but
federal.
They do receive state grants.
Right, and they do get some from consolidated government, I understand.
I
Just some
believe
very
so.
small through community development.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So what was the response? Have you had any response yet from the district attorney or from the legislative auditor?
Yes, I did receive a letter from the Louisiana legislative auditor, and I've also received response from the district attorney in Lafayette.
Okay.
They are investigating.
They are investigating.
Correct.
Do they give you any timeline? I guess they never say that.
No.
They never tell you when.
Not
You know,
sure.
I want to remind our listeners that if they have any questions about any of this, 232-1542, we'd love to hear from you. So you've got the ball rolling now. What about Mr. Wiltz? I mean, he's still kind of in limbo right now, isn't he?
Yes, Mr. Wilson wanted to be here today. However, he couldn't make it. But he, too, plans on filing a lawsuit as well because he was illegally removed. Mr. Wiltz has been on the board for over 5 years.
Now, what about the board members who voted on the same side as you?
Correct, Mr. John Billiard, along with other members.
Can they bring up these issues and maybe force it to get on the agenda?
Yes, they have. But I honestly feel that they, too, are now worried that they may be
forced.
that
they would be forced to.
Correct.
To
forced off the board.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just unbelievable, Africa. I mean, it's really sad when you see, you know, your original intent was to help people, and now you have all these board members doing illegal things, fighting each other.
Right.
And I know you probably don't want to talk much about the travel, but the amount of money.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and talk about that issue as well, but I also want to point out when Marja Broussard removed her letter, I reached out to my pastor. I was attending Philadelphia Christian Church. However, when all this chaos occurred, I requested a recommendation letter, and I received an approval from First Lady Chantel Thibault. And that got screwed up as well because Marja Broussard contacted my pastor to remove his letter. And
are you serious?
I'm serious.
Somebody's on a power trip, huh?
Right. It's sad. You should never mix religion and politics because it becomes problematic.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, especially in a case of this organization, this nonprofit. We have a caller. John, go ahead. You are on the Ross Report with Africa Arceneaux.
Yes, Carol, I'd like to ask, how many white members are on that board?
Right now, I believe there is maybe 2.
Yeah,
Two.
I think Mr. Biot is one, correct?
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
he was
and
appointed.
Mr. Guidry.
Okay.
Why aren't there more? Why aren't there more whites on that board?
Well, I don't know. Africa?
There should be, because the agency should never discriminate because poverty occurs all races.
Exactly. Africa, you said it so well. John, does that answer your question? I mean,
no, it doesn't.
Well, no, but
I've had some dealings with Smile when I was managing a Section 8 program and stuff, and all I got out there were racist comments about the Israelis and stuff like this. In fact, I found that these people that were running Smile were very, very anti-Jewish You know, I walked away there with the feeling that had they been in control of race relations, the Jews would be persecuted and put into concentration camps again.
Oh my goodness.
That's the impression I got. That's the impression I got. You know, and I'm Catholic. I'm not Jewish.
Right.
But that was my dealings with them, and I walked away from there saying, what kind of public funds are going into with these people manage it? Why aren't they investigated, or why isn't it just thrown out and completely revamped?
Well, I tell you what, Ms. Arceneaux has very bravely filed suit for these particular issues, but I am hoping that when the legislative auditor gets in there and looks at the finances and looks at the money they've spent on traveling, and when the district attorney gets in there and looks at the illegal actions that the board has taken, this is a lot of public money. And I will tell you, I sent an email to Senator John Kennedy's office because this is a lot of federal money, $17 million in federal money, and I requested that they take a look at this as well. We need to get to the bottom of this. The people who need to be helped are being lost in this infighting and these illegal activities. Who is looking out for the people?
Yeah, Carolyn, evidently they're not there for the people, they're there for themselves. Right. But I got to compliment Africa Arceneaux. I hope she sticks to it and goes all the way with this and fights it, because that's what they need to do.
Absolutely.
Is open up the whole can of worms.
You're so right, John.
Right. Thank you, Mr. John. Like I've stated before, the agency should avoid the look of impropriety because it's questionable when you're dealing with government funding.
Yep, and it will hurt. It will hurt eventually.
Yes, it will hurt.
Because if somebody really looks into it and they say, whoa, we're going to clean house because we can't trust you people. That is not good, because there are a lot of good people on the board, like Africa and others, who are trying to do the right thing.
Right.
We have another call coming in Africa. James, you're on the air on the Ross Report with Africa Arceneaux.
Hi, James.
I just wanted to agree with the last caller. I hope that you do, look into this, have the government look into this further. And if the government does find that there's a large amount of corruption in this, yeah, I think this should be scrapped. There's plenty of other charity programs out there. So I think the government should fund those charity programs if this one's corrupt.
Well, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but you're right. There's so much that needs to be done, and I applaud board. There's a lot of pressure in the Black community to go along and get along, and so I really applaud Ms. Arceneaux and others who've tried to do this. So hopefully we can get it cleaned up. You said you did want to talk a little bit, Africa, about the travel. You had made a comment about that.
Yes, and I just want to go ahead and clear the air. Like I've stated, poverty occurs all races. We are all affected. We must come together as one to make this community the best place to live. Weren't we voted Lafayette the happiest city in the United States?
Well, maybe there's a void there somewhere around the board. By the way, you all meet in all three parishes, don't you?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's rotating. Do you have a website that people can go to? Is there a Head Start or a Smile website?
They can go to the Smile Community Action website.
Okay.
Yes, and they can see information there.
Okay.
Correct.
And find out when the meetings are, where the meetings are. And
the board meetings are always the last Monday.
Oh, okay.
At 6 o'clock, and we rotate. Last Monday we had it in St. Martin. Next Monday, I believe it's going to be in New Iberia, and then it will follow through Lafayette.
Yeah, okay. So St. Martin was this past Monday, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Do you still go to the board meetings?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay.
I'm not stopping.
What do they do when you go to those board meetings? I mean, how do they treat you?
They are changing so many things now. They're even trying to change the bylaws right now. And there's a section for public comment. Mm-hmm. Now you can't even speak about what you choose to speak about. You have to speak only what's on the agenda.
Oh,
you
yes.
have to speak.
This is a trend. This is a trend. Consolidated government. Well, they're not that bad, but they do restrict the time. School board. What's on the agenda? What is it about don't they get it? Public service, public meetings. Don't they get it? Do they wonder why people are so frustrated with all of the institutions that get a lot of money?
Right, and it's your federal dollars. They're taking this out of your checks.
Africa, I want you to keep us posted. We have one more call coming in. We'll take one more call, and then we have to go to break. But I want you to keep us posted about all of your activities, about how your lawsuit proceeds, moves forward. Yeah. And you did want to say something about the trips. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say the trip to Puerto Rico, that was, I believe, wasted funds. I mean, they didn't have to allow that many people to go. If it was justifiable, 17. I mean, come on now. We could have used that money to help other people who definitely need the services. I hate driving on St. John at night and seeing homeless people sleeping on the curbside.
There you go.
That breaks my heart.
Charlie, go ahead. You're on the Ross Report. You're the last phone call to make it in before we have to go to break.
Okay. Well, look, first of all, I admire you for coming on the radio and talking about this. One of the things that when you were talking about the travel, they spent $4,000 in Las Vegas, yet they spent $4,000 in Baton Rouge. It's kind of, wondering, did they go to the best restaurant in Baton Rouge and because it's a lot cheaper over there. I just, sometimes I have to look at that. That's kind of a little bit bizarre in itself. And,
truly.
The other thing on that is, I do understand, what you're doing is there's a lot of charities that, had such high administrative costs. Very little goes to the people that they're intended to do. And that, that's, my thing is anyone who denied these people, poor people, whatever, because of greed and corruption, there's a special place in hell.
You're right, Charlie. And the problem with this is it's a government agency, so it's not a nonprofit. And typically, I don't think they rate government agencies on Charity Navigator to see what the administrative costs would be. So that would be a good thing to know, because it sounds to me like with all the traveling they did, because Ms. Taylor, in her writing, said there wasn't 1 month that they didn't have some kind of travel. So anyway, we've got to go for a break, but I sure appreciate you calling, Charlie. Thanks so much. And we definitely appreciate Ms. Arceneaux for being with us today very much. And Africa, I do want to
thank you.
Well, we've been keeping up with this, and it really has been disturbing. So we wanted to get to the bottom of it. We wanted to hear from somebody who's in the fight, in the trenches, trying to do the right thing.
Right. The weight on my back is heavy right now, but I have strong faith in God that the Fed's going to come in and clean up house.
Well, let me tell you something. Because of you, because of your voice, and I believe that there are a lot of people in this listening audience, they have your back. They understand what you're going through. Thank you again, Africa. Keep us in the loop, okay? Thank you, babe. All right, we got to take a break on the Ross Report. We always have a line for you. 232-1542. We'll be right back. Stay with us.